Hello everyone, welcome to the InnerView with myself, Bianca Williams. I am so thrilled to be bringing these conversations to girls and young women everywhere on behalf of Campaign for Girls. And Campaign for Girls is a vehicle for social change that works to empower women through development. For more information on that and everything else that we do, please do visit www.campaignforgirls.org.za. But right now though, this moment and this show is all about connecting aspiring girls to inspiring women. We know that this insight and excellence is cultivated from an early age, so we'd like to know from them, what is it in your childhood that has shaped the woman that you are today? What is it that helped you develop your eagerness to learn, that inspired you to go for your dreams and your goals, and that made sure that you dedicate your time and discipline to getting there? I am so excited to have these conversations, so without any further delay, please welcome my guest, Ms. Konehali Gugushe. Every woman has a vital role in the community that she is a part of. Her strength becomes the backbone that makes it stable, her knowledge becomes a building tool, and her compassion is its heart. Konehali Gugushe is this woman. Born and raised in a village just outside of King Williamstown to extraordinary parents, she learned to use her voice to stand out and take charge from an early age. She is a qualified chartered accountant with a passion for social investment and is currently at the driving seat as the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Kone is a wife, a mother, and a revered Campaign for Girls mentor. Hi Kone, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am great. I am so happy to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me.
So I've always wondered, because I really like your name, and with Campaign for Girls, we always talk about how identity is really at the core of who you are and what you decide to become and to do with your life. So what does your name actually mean? What's the story behind it?
Well, it's actually an interesting one because I grew up being told and understanding that my name is Konehali.
Okay.
And I grew up understanding that it means princess.
Oh.
And as I was also growing up and trying to dissect it, when you break up the name, Bukoni is north, and Hadi is a person of a feminine gender. So in its rawest form, it is woman from the north. But woman from the north, or a woman of higher stature, the regal nature of a woman, so it actually is princess.
Oh my goodness, it is actually so fitting because that's exactly what you are. I mean, with all the leadership qualities that you possess and all the leadership skills and, every position that you've actually also occupied, it's very clear that you're actually staying true to your name.
And I claim it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So going back to where it all began for you, I know you grew up in King Williamstown.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it was like for a young Kone growing up in that time?
So I grew up in a time that was very interesting. At the height of apartheid, born in 1975, and my father was killed in police detention in 1976, just after the 1976 riots. And, my parents and the community that we were in was a community that was highly invested in the struggle for our own liberation, but deeply rooted in Black consciousness. And so, my mother was suddenly a widow at 25 with two girls, two young girls, and she was harassed by police, arrested, every so often. And so there was a lot of, that instability that was part of that era. But also another very important thing about that era was that it was an era where people believed that they could triumph, regardless of whatever that was going on around them. They could make good of the things that they want, achieve the things that they can. So I actually grew up with a firm understanding and belief that despite what was happening in the country, despite the limitations that were put on us as Black people, there actually was nothing that you cannot do. And also in an all-female household, despite what those limitations could be, there's nothing that you cannot do. My mother was certainly a person of great courage, great achievement. So she never depended on other people to actually do things for her. She always used to say, "There's nothing that you cannot do. There's nothing that you need a man to come and do for you, because you can also do just as much."
I can understand that because obviously, growing up in a family with just women, I can imagine the spirit and the strength, really, the spirit of determination must have been quite high.
Yeah.
But what were you like as a young girl? What were you like really? If I had to speak to your siblings today, what would they say?
Well, I think a lot of it would be around I'm a very extroverted person, very outspoken, very feisty in my nature. It works for me.
Yep.
If it doesn't work for other people, they must deal with that. So and I also grew up in a context where I started school early. And so I was always the youngest in the settings that I was in. So I always had to find my own voice, my own space. So I ended up, I don't want to say forceful, but certainly as someone who would establish my own space and find that. And finding that voice and being able to speak up for myself has been something that has started from there and has gone with me until now. Yeah.
And how did that translate when you were at school?
So I mean, as I said, very outspoken. Interestingly enough, I never was one to sit in the front of the class.
Okay.
But I think, certainly my voice would be heard, regardless of where I was in the positioning of the class. And a lot of the teachers that I had, I certainly developed personal relationships with. Right from primary school, I had very personal relationships with each of my teachers because I believe that it is important for you to make connection. And I'm not one to, just be put down as was also there.
Yes. No.
So making connection is important, and till today I still fondly remember a lot of my class teachers because I have that special connection with all of them.
Yeah. And did you have that one particular teacher that really made a huge impact in the woman that you are today?
Yes, I think that would be my standard 3 teacher, Mrs. Malusi. And Mrs. Malusi was, in our school, there was, girls used to do needlework, boys used to do gardening. And in the year that we came, they introduced music.
Okay.
And so our class was the class that was going to try out this music curriculum. And she was the person that, I think firstly allowed and enabled us to do it, because I think she had to fight for her class to be able to participate in that, because I hated needlework. I just could not get it right from primary school. I just hated it.
Having to put that
It
thread
just
through the eye
just
of the
never
needle.
worked for me. It just never worked. So I think she got that sense of us feeling. She made us feel special. She made us feel that we were the special kids in the school because despite what everyone else was doing, we were the privileged few to try out this new curriculum. And she used to be the choir conductor. I don't think that I sang very well.
Yeah, because I was about to ask. I didn't know about that.
I don't think I sang very well. But she had a way of making you feel that whatever it is that you were doing was the best that you can. So even if you were not selected for the solo, you still didn't feel bad about yourself. And I really still hold very fond memories about her.
Of course, I know as myself as well, growing up as a young girl, there's so many challenges and so many things that come at you. So how you feel about yourself really is important.
I was telling my daughters the other day that I still have my report cards from primary school.
Let's not even talk about that, because my daughter is always on my case about my report cards. I do the same.
And looking at them, teachers had to write specific comments
Yes.
about yourself. And again, on reflection, I think she really was one of the people that really instilled this sense of confidence in myself. I really, really liked her.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely. It's very important.
Yeah.
But what's the thing now that made you decide to get into accounting? I mean, I know a lot of people make fun of accountants saying they're number crunchers.
Yeah, that was an accidental move.
Okay.
I actually wanted to be an optometrist. I think because I liked my optometrist, I started wearing glasses, I think in standard 5. And again, had such a lovely optometrist. I can't remember, I think it was Dr. Gardner. Such a lovely, gentle, older doctor. And I really, really liked him. So I wanted to be an optometrist, and I then, obviously then selected science as part of my subjects. Science didn't quite like me. Didn't quite like me, and my science teacher was also not.
She could see.
Not very good with me.
Okay.
There was just chemistry that was not working.
Funny enough, no pun intended.
No pun intended. and so my science passion, I think, really by the time I got to matric was waning, and so the choices were either you follow a science route or you follow a commerce route. And so I then, when I got to university, decided to follow a commerce route. And then I started to get to understand about being a chartered accountant, and it was put out as this impossible dream. It was put out as this unattainable achievement for Black people and Black girls in particular. And so, because of that, I was like, why not? I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. So it was accidental in that sense, but I think it was trying to break this notion that it cannot be done, and it certainly is something that is not available for Black girls.
Okay. No, that's very true. I mean, I am aware that the numbers, especially back in the day, were quite low for Black female chartered accountants.
Yeah.
And I know with Sis Nonkululeko Goboto, she paved the way really when she became the first one in 1987.
Yeah.
So I can hear it's very important for you in terms of breaking the norms and the stereotypes.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of approach that you take when it comes to you and, the work that you do in the line of work that you do?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, so when I qualified as a CA, I then, decided to go into banking. And at the time, I think also, there was a lot of excitement around careers like corporate finance, structured finance, and things like that, which really didn't appeal to me. They didn't appeal to me because of the kind of person that I am, and the kind of things that I like to do. And I ended up going into credit risk and credit risk management, which was actually a function that I absolutely loved and absolutely enjoyed. And however, it is a support function. Okay. It's not a front-facing, and whenever, a lot of the times at the bank, people used to say to me, but you should be front-facing, you should be client-facing, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. I enjoy what I'm doing now, and I enjoy using the skills that I have in the manner that I do. And then when I decided to change to get into the development sector, that was also something that I think a lot of people could not understand. It seemed as if one was almost wasting the opportunity, the qualification. A lot of people were telling me that it was career suicide, and that's okay, because those are their choices. And for me, I think it was important to understand, how do I use what I have to involve myself in things that I'm passionate about, in things that are important to me, in things that connect with my spirit, instead of just following a path because that's what accountants do. So I've never really been a traditional accountant. I've used the accounting qualification as a stepping stone to do the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah, and some of the things that you wanted to do, obviously being in the development space.
Yeah.
Right now you are the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund.
Yes.
What is that experience like? I can just imagine being within that aura, being part of that value and the ethos. What is that like for you?
Whoa. it's a very daunting yet exciting task. Obviously, Tata Madiba is really the father of our nation, and one that has values that really resonate with me. And the Children's Fund was the first legacy organization that he established. When he was president, he responding to the love that he has for children and the challenges that he was observing and seeing in terms of, challenges faced by children, he really felt the need to establish the Children's Fund so that it could operate, even beyond his own lifetime. And here we are. There's a video clip that we like to play where he says that he established the Children's Fund so that it can continue the work even if he's not here, for as long as there are good men and women who can continue with that work. So the work that we do it really is continuing that legacy, and it's such an important legacy. But also, children are the future of any nation. The hopes and dreams of a prosperous nation are embodied in the children, and how the children are able to grow and thrive and change the society that they live in. So the work that we do is so important in shaping that future, is so important in making sure that the children of this nation know that not only did they have a champion in Tata Madiba, but they also have an organization that is very much concerned in making sure that they thrive and they really achieve and develop into the best that they can be. So it's exciting, but I can't say that I don't feel the weight of the pressure of succeeding in it.
Of course, I can only imagine what that must be like.
Yeah.
It seems to me that it is very much like a community-centered and a community-focused position that you're in, which I'm sure is different to what people would have thought, like you said, regarding banking.
Yeah.
But how important is it really to follow your own voice when it comes to making these decisions? Because someone can look at you and say, wow, you are so, you've got these accolades, you are so talented and skilled in so many things. How do you actually block out the noise, so to speak, and listen to your voice and follow your own purpose?
So one of the most important things for me, I think, is self-knowledge. Understanding yourself and understanding what makes you tick, understanding what makes you happy, understanding what drives you. And, in my career, I had to take some time. At some point, when I qualified as an accountant, I wanted to be a equity analyst. And eventually, I got an opportunity to work at JP Morgan, one of the biggest banks in the world, and really now, try and carve out a career as an equity analyst. So I had this dream job in this fantastic, beautiful company, but I was so miserable. I hated my job. And I had to take some time to reflect and understand what was going on. And really, for me, I found that there were certain things that it was not responding to in terms of the things that feed my soul and the things that make me happy, besides it being an important job and all of that. And so once I understood this importance of doing things that resonate with yourself, regardless of what everyone else says, that is how you achieve true happiness. And when I finally left that role, I took some time to understand, is it just JP Morgan? Do I want to go and do the same thing elsewhere? And when I decided that this actually is not the role and the kind of work for me, it was easier to then chart a different path. And of course, the development sector, I grew up with my mother working in NGOs. She was a qualified teacher, but understanding what was happening at the time, she was banned and couldn't practice as a teacher, and ultimately started working in community development. So I grew up, with this role model that was so active in trying to advance other people's lives, and this became part of what we did. And so when I had my own children, I then started reflecting to say, how do I tell them 20, 30 years from now to say, what did I do to change the shape of the future? What did I do to make sure that the world that they exist in as adults is a different world than what I existed in, particularly with the challenges that are faced of inequality, of poverty, and the challenges that particularly face Black people. And so, once I understood the importance of that, and, the conversations that you have with yourself just don't allow you to stop until you respond to that. And I really found resonance, and I really found something that is not really a job anymore, but it's about my life, how I want to contribute to society, and how I want to, my most productive years to mean. And this is what I'm doing now.
Wow, no, that's definite, and it's very commendable. What I'd like to also know from you is, how do you think, as a woman who's in business and a leader, and as well as a woman who's also, who has a family, who's got daughters, beautiful daughters that you're raising.
Thank you.
How do you think we can actually, look at gender issues and gender equality, and how can we promote unity between men and women so that we can all have a unified goal when it comes to actually developing ourselves as a people?
I think it starts with the home, because everyone exists from a home, whether it is structured in whatever form it is, but everyone comes from some kind of a home. And then they live within a community, and in that community they interact in schools, in places of worship and things like that. But how we conduct ourselves within the smallest groups that we have, particularly at the homes, and the power dynamics that exist within there, I think shape a lot in both girls and boys in terms of how they view gender roles, and what should happen in society. Our society is very patriarchal, and I grew up in a primarily female household, and even now I have two girls. It's a primarily female household.
Majority rules.
Yes, and it's very important for me to let my girls know that they matter first and foremost. It does not mean that because they matter, the other person does not matter. It does not mean that the men in our home don't matter. Of course they do. And so we need to strike a balance of respecting each other. We need to strike a balance of taking care of each other, instead of being aggressors of each other. And it does not mean that people will always agree on certain things. But when you don't agree, you need to make sure that the resolution of the disagreements that you have are done in a manner that does not put one under the force of another. And once we get that mindset, that thinking that no one should dominate the other person, then we start living more equally, then we start living better together, and we take that to our communities, and then it becomes a society and the nation as a whole. Respect has to be at the root of it, though.
Yeah,
has to be at the root.
Definitely, because that's very important when it comes to building sustainable communities, wouldn't you say?
Indeed. And so when you then go to a community context, I found myself having to stand up in spaces where I don't really challenge, as in I'm trying to change the norm.
Yes.
But I find myself standing up in spaces where my gender, maybe in older times, would not enabled me to, or allowed me to do that. And so we need to take those roles in communities to also show that women do have a role to play. Women can be a voice to be listened to, and we must do that responsibly. And that that has to be done hand in hand with the male counterparts that we have.
Definitely. My goodness, I could talk forever with you. And I think we usually do have conversations
Yeah,
together, but
yeah.
I'm so glad you came over. Thank you so much for your time, Kone.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you, and I hope you know that we find you to be a powerful, strong example here at Campaign for Girls. If you could please just leave our viewers with a message, especially our girls from Campaign for Girls, what would it be? What is the one thing that you'd like to leave them with?
To the girls of Campaign for Girls, I think I'd like you to leave you with a message that says, know yourself, love yourself, and love others. Because if we do that, we can certainly change so much that is wrong in our society.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kone. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. See you again soon.